Tender loving care. Dream house. Bright Mac sighed heavily as he looked over the pile of sticks, rocks, and leaves. Then he looked at the orange filly sitting beside the pile, covered in dirt, scrapes, and bearing a twig in her mane. Then he sighed.
Applejack,
He said, with every ounce of patience that he could muster.
now what have you learned from this?
The filly paused, searching her thoughts carefully to separate the lessons that she had learned from this debacle from the one that her father wanted her to have gotten out of it. With the innocence of an angel, she pronounced one.
Structural foundation should be secured at least 2 full hoof widths deep into the ground before working on the roof structure.
Bright Mac looked at his daughter. Then he looked at a pile of debris that had been her attempt at a playhouse.
Well, that's a lesson.
He hesitantly allowed. Applejack smiled even wider, hoping to out-adorable her father's frustration. Leaning in, Bright Mac smudged away some of the dirt on the filly's cheek with his hoof.
The lesson I was thinking more of is that 6 ain't old enough to do construction work.
Instantly, Applejack objected.
I'm 7!
Now 7 ain't old enough neither.
Amended his father as he fought to keep down his laughter.
But
Bright Mac added as he straightened up again.
you've got a point behind this little...
He trailed off, considering carefully how to express himself without adding inappropriate words to Applejack's young vocabulary.
incident.
He decided on. Moving around past her, Bright Mac prodded the pile of attempted structure.
You're getting older, and a growing fella like yourself needs a little bit of privacy. At least somewhere where you and your friends can talk and giggle and, well, do whatever it is little fillies do.
He laughed quietly, doubly so once he saw Applejack's indignant pout.
So, I figure, since 7 ain't old enough to build it, that I should get my hooves involved.
Applejack's pout blossomed into a sparkling-eyed smile as wide as Appaloosa.
Gonna need more nails.
Bright Mac mused to himself as he drove one of the last ones that he had in. There were only 2 left in the bag, but they had lasted nearly long enough. The roof was on the treehouse. 3 walls stood firm, as did the ramp leading up to the branches. The last wall would be put on later. It kinda had to be, since Bright Mac was too large to fit through the filly-sized door and take care of the interior. Another afternoon or 2 would be enough to get the rest done, and then it was just some sanding and painting before his eldest daughter had herself the clubhouse that she had been after. Maybe it hadn't been quick, but working together, they'd nearly completed the job and had a good time doing it. A glance down to where Applejack was reminded Bright Mac of the fun that they'd had over the last 2 weeks. They were selecting just the right tree to build the house in, planning out the design, cutting the boards, and piece by piece, setting them into place. There were quite the long late afternoons of working together on that project. Well, not really work though, even though they both had their fair share of sweat. Applejack was still sweating as she carried another can of paint out of the barn, staging it for use in the next few days. But every moment with his daughter had been precious joy for Bright Mac. And her smile, both the one that she had now and the one that she'd have when it was all done, made everything worth it.
That the last of them?
He called down from above, leaning to get a better look at his daughter. Applejack was cheery, despite the work.
It sure is, Pa.
With a jerk of her head, she tugged a tarp over the paint to protect it from the elements.
When you get back, we can start right up.
Bright Mac beamed.
And we will. I know you want to get this done so we can show it off to your friends, Sugar Cube. Just as soon as your ma and I get back, we'll get it done.
He tapped the hammer against his chin thoughtfully.
So, round trip plus finishing up, let's say you should be about ready to brag about this here treehouse by the end of next week.
The joy of the job being nearly completed invigorated Applejack. She clapped her hooves together excitedly, and Bright Mac smiled, because his daughter smiled. The day had no right to be sunny. It should have been raining. Dark. Somber and gray, and packed with clouds. Heavy as lead hearts. But it wasn't. It was sunny and bright with a light cool breeze out of the southeast that carried it with a scent of the lake. It was a perfect day for fun and laughter in the green grass. Applejack wanted no part of that. The morning clothes had been packed away. The only black dress that she owned and the relatives had gone home. Now, the farmstead was only 4. Not 6. Never again. The orchard gave Applejack some small solace. It smelled as it always did, at least. The hint of every apple and every breath that she took was something that she could latch onto. Something normal. If she closed her eyes, it was almost the same again. Wood against her back as she leaned into the tree. Ripe fruit and rich loam tickling her nose. And the gentle distant sound of some pony working. It was the last that pulled her eyes open and set her hooves to move again. As she approached, the sound resolved itself. Not the thud of hooves bucking trees, but it was a lighter sound. The regular slide and scrape. The sound so much like the tide of sandpaper back and forth against wood. Vision, too, resolved into the bright red of Big Mac. Now, Big Mac working in the orchard, that was normal. Him being halfway up a tree was not. But there he was, running a sanding block over a section of the treehouse. For long minutes, Applejack just watched her brother work. He did so with a slow, even pace, thoughtful in each action. The rough-grained sandpaper was swapped in time for progressively finer ones, each taking the rough board that he was working on closer to completion. Applejack didn't voice her question. There really wasn't any need to. Big Mac answered it anyway, in his own time. Pa said he'd finish this treehouse for you, the still young Colt intoned solemnly. I figured he wouldn't mind some help to keep the promise. She nodded in silent response and picked up a piece of sandpaper to help. I love that. Family who has been through some tough shit, but they still keep on going as a family, never even breaking apart. If that ain't inspirational, I don't know what is. Speaking of which, here are some inspirational donators. Top donators, Dash of Evergreen, Peter Coulthard, J Tin Man, and Darkside. CourierCruz, Delta Omega, Runescythe 9852, Dospo, Ryanny Dragonwolf, Secret Moon, Tallrascha, The Toilet Snake, Cerberus, Starlight Glimmer, Squiddy Boy, David D. Sanchez, Soul Dragon, Gaggy, Trey, Shadow Drake, Joe Piercy, Alex F., Rainbow Dash, TLK Anderson, TV Killer, and John Becker. Thank you all very much for watching this video. Live life to the fullest, and stick by the people that you love.